Someone was out there throwing a spear last weekend. What did you do? Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Spartan Race. And yes, throwing a spear is part of it. There's a lot of other things going on there in the race as well. Make a public commitment, put a date on the calendar. Let's do a Spartan race together. If you use code SpartanDad, that's code SpartanDad, you'll get 25% off any race. For those wanting to race in Nashville, I have a way you can get your whole race paid for. Reach out to me. Check out Spartan Race. Use code SpartanDad. Today's show is also sponsored by our friends at distilleryproducts.com. If you are a store, you're a group, you're a blog, you're a podcast, you're a distillery, whatever it is, you need laser edge glassware at wholesale prices. Reach out to me. I'd be happy to get you in touch with the whole family behind distilleryproducts.com doing amazing things. We use them. You should too at distilleryproducts.com. Today's show is also sponsored by our friends at Orca Coolers. Whether it's the Chaser, the Traveler, the Camper, the Barrels, the roto-molded coolers, be the coolest dad this summer at the pool, at the beach, camping, whatever it is you're doing at orcacoolers.com. Use code DADSEASON for 20% off your order. That's code DADSEASON for 20% off your order. And make sure you check out, coming this summer, they're going to have their 10th anniversary cooler. It's going to be pretty cool. And then you can laser on that Chaser Teeny. You can put logos on there, custom stuff. It's going to be really cool. Use code DADSEASON for 20% off at orcacoolers.com. Zeke, I've been saving this. I know that typically with the type of guests that we have today, I would say let's forego a cold open and let's just get right to it, because you'd be so excited, especially the fact that we are talking about Grand Marnier today. Like, you've been giddy all day, but I am going to give you a second gift. This is like Zeke's birthday today.
Don't let me down.
I bought jorts today.
Oof. I'm supposed to be excited?
You are, because the unlimited amount of trolling you're probably going to give me, but I'm very excited about these jorts. I tried to make some jorts before we went to the Garth Brooks concert because I was going to show up wearing jorts, but they weren't tight enough and they looked way too loose and relaxed. So I got these new jorts.
Well, your wife, as far as I know, is a Florida grad, and coming from the University of Georgia, I've chanted more times than I can count, Gators wear jean shorts. Maybe it'll get you somewhere.
So I came home today. I took my daughter to dance recital practice. She has a big dance recital this weekend. And I came home and I was all excited because I felt like I was looking good. And I was like, all right, my wife's going to see me. I'm looking good, feeling great. And she goes, you bought jorts? Why? Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards. With me, as always, is Zeke Baker. And together, we make the Dad's Drink of Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. I'm really disappointed. I thought you were going to take and run the jorts. Things that I think, is it too much low-hanging fruit for you, Zeke Baker? Is that, not good? Do you need to be challenged more?
I mean, somewhere I went in this place in my mind where you threw out the birthday thing. And I kind of reverted back to these times my mom would be like, you got you the best thing ever. You're going to love this. And then you open it and you're like, what am I ever going to do with this?
Oh, you mean, so I hyped it too much. So it was my fault.
Yeah, it was just man, you want to be excited about that?
Where I just figured your mind would have been like, I am going to give him so much shit this summer. And I thought you would have got excited.
If I see pictures, as soon as I see pictures, don't worry. But you know me, I like to work for my trolls. I don't really go for low hanging fruit too much.
The people who are on here, I don't want them to be disappointed. There's,
oh dear God.
Do you feel like it's your birthday now, Zeke? Zeke's chugging Grand Marnier to get this taste out of his mouth.
I might have to go an early shot for that one. I thought you looked great, John.
Thank you.
Oh, John, they turned it up.
And of course, that is the one, the only. You know him, you love him. He's been on the show before. Mr. Galen Johnson, what is your title now? Because we've been following your career as you've been moving up at Campari. You run the state in something now, don't you?
Hey guys, what's up? So I'm the DM. So it's interesting. I think that's kind of funny the way they've got the titles. Andy, through whom we met and was introduced, He's a state manager, so he is actually my line manager. So he runs a lot of financials and all the things that we're dealing with. And I'm sort of just feet on the street, just pulsing, trying to make sure that we are always relevant and continue to be relevant and trying to put out fires and such, and crisscrossing from city to city and moving around in that capacity. But I think all we're trying to do right now is just find product and try to figure out.
And glass. Product and glass.
Glass. We are now supply chain coordinators. So, we are just trying to get as much as we can back to normal. Spinners of fantasy and mystery.
Well, I want to thank you, my friend, because you brought this amazing person to us. He is the national brand ambassador for Grand Marnier. This is one thing I'm not hyping too much. I can't tell you enough how excited Zeke was to do a show. He's wanted to do this show for a very, very long time. And that is Mr. Xavier Herit from Campari, from Grand Marnier. Thank you so much for joining Dad's Drinking Bourbon.
Well, John and Zeke, thank you very much for having me. And John, you say the name right. You sound almost like a French guy, French person. So
my only exposure to French, I took Spanish in school. I did watch a little bit of Muzzy as a kid. I don't know if you remember that. Like, it was a little cartoon that it was before. What's the thing people do to learn language now? It's the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
It was before Rosetta Stone. There was this cartoon Muzzy, and I just remember the commercial. It was like, Je suis la jeune vie. And then, like, there was this whole thing where it's like, Je m'appelle Jacques. And then, like, you saw it was an animated thing that let you learn how to speak.
Maybe we should go back to the roots then.
I am batting 1,000 today. I mean, I'm going to shut up more, but welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Well, I've been with, it's funny, it's my first role on the brand side. So I've been with Grand Marnier for almost 3 years now as a brand ambassador for the United States, which is kind of weird. Is we kind of lost a year and a half of normal life. So when I started with Grand Marnier, I didn't really was able to do a full year traveling because everything was on pause. So I think I'm really embracing the job entirely now this year, where we can see, because I'm covering a lot of different cities, markets. I'm basically have to be available wherever they need me in the United States, which is also amazing. But before to go more into my role with Grand Marnier, because there's a lot of exciting things I love also talking about Grand Marnier. It's part of my heart. I grew up with Grand Marnier my entire life, but before that, I was in the restaurant business. And so I came in New York City in 2003. So I like to consider myself a New Yorker with a strong French accent.
So you've been there for a very, very long time. What did you do in restaurants before you moved over to the brand side? Were you bartending, moving up, and then more and more into management roles?
I think I tried a lot of, always around the bar and the cocktail scene. I used to run the bar program for Chef Daniel Boulu. So Daniel has a 2 Michelin star restaurant on 65th Street and Park Avenue in the Upper East Side. And I had an amazing venture with him. And I was able to run multiple bar programs along the corporate, open his restaurant in Beijing, in London. So it's been an amazing venture. So that was one part of my career, which is I'm very thankful to have learned so much working very tightly with chefs, using amazing products. Because in the Michelin star restaurant, you work with seasonal fruit, you have access to every produce. But I also was able to work in different type of place. I opened also experimental cocktail club in Lower East Side with Nico De Soto. She's definitely one of the top bartender, I think, right now worldwide. And learn also different style of cocktails. I used to own a restaurant back in the days called Wallflower, which is closed now. And also I run F&B department, food and beverage department in hotels. So I think I like to say I touched a lot of different side of this business before, and I enjoyed it. It was very great. But I was like, hey, do I want to do it again? Do I want to maybe spend? This industry requires a lot of hours, a lot of time, and it's, of course, you got to be passionate when you do that. But I think to me, I feel very thankful when Campari Group approached me and said, hey, would you be interested to work for Grand Marnier and talk about Grand Marnier? And so I was like, it took me some time to take the decision to say yes.
I mean, you had to take the pay cut too, right?
Yes. I think at the end, what's very important is to, no matter what you do in the life, it's you got to be excited about it, and you got to find this balance between being happy in your private life and being happy also. If you really love your job, you do not count hours. You do not count, because everything comes organically. And this is the way I feel with Grand Marnier. It's just I'm still able to be in connection with this industry which is I really love. We're still permanently growing every day with new bartenders, new cocktails, and really my role is to continue to get people excited about the brand and going all over the country. And also, I love to say New York is a great city, but there's a great cocktail scene everywhere in America, in so many cities. So when I go to DC, Atlanta, Portland, the West Coast, it's very inspiring to see what are the bartenders doing nowadays, and to see the cocktail scene growing up. And everywhere you go, you can get a great old fashioned. 15 years ago, it was probably a fruit salad with some cherry models and a slice of orange and tons of fruit inside. So I like to say how the cocktail scene is great. Sorry, I went into a big introduction, but yes.
And what about you? I mean, we know you're a bartender. We know that you know your way around. You've developed cocktail programs, but what did you get started on? Were you started on cognac, or did you start on different spirits and then kind of found your way there? What's your go-to? Obviously, it's going to be Grand Marnier now, but I mean, what was your go-to before?
I think there's a time for every good thing, a time of the day. There's nothing wrong to get a beer and a shot. It's the happiest thing that can happen on a late night.
I think you roll the same way we do. I mean, we're very open that it's not always bourbon, and sometimes you just got to get a big old glass of gin and put a bunch of ice in it, just sip it. Like there's a bunch of stuff. It's different things for different times.
But I like to say I'm also a big fan of mezcal. And don't get me wrong, I love every spirits. However, mezcal is the one that I'm still very excited about, because it's still a lot of mezcal is still very artisanal. And once you go, I was lucky to go in Oaxaca City last year for the first time, and I was able to try so many great mezcal that we will never see in the United States, because there's such a small production. But I love to see it's still very family. There's the whole process behind. If I have to pick, of course, after Grand Marnier, if I have to pick another spirit I really like to drink, it's definitely mezcal, of course.
All right. At this point, Zeke, I'm just going to let you take over. I mean, everything about you two is pretty spot on, except, you both have accents. There's a lot that both of you have going on. You drink a whole variety of things. You love mezcal. You love Grand Marnier. All right, Zeke, floor is yours.
Yeah, I found my new best friend, I think, very easily. Although we're never going to understand what the other one says. We'll just have to look and nod, and just maybe point a little bit or something.
What? There's no subtitle?
Oh, no, that's great. John, I know you've got other questions, and
No. I mean, if you're going to jump in before 30 minutes, I'm excited about this. So go ahead.
I think Zeke is just ready to sample, honestly. I think he's just so enthusiastic.
Galen, let him. If the man's going to ask a question and pull some weight here, don't discourage him.
I think I'm going to
put some weight on it, Zeke.
The only other thing I was going to say is, because I'm not as smart as you are about Grand Marnier, I want to know a little bit about the brand. And I just know sometimes it tastes a little orange. You put it in a lot of cocktails, but you can have it neat and it tastes good. That's basically what I know. So knowing what I know, Xavier, fill me in a little bit on this spirit.
Sure. I think to me, which is great with Grand Marnier, it's been established for a very long time. I grew up myself in France. My parents always had a bottle of Grand Marnier in their bar. My grandmother always had a bottle of Grand Marnier in her kitchen. So it's been around for a long time. It's the necessary liquor that everyone has in their home. At least in France, and I hope it is also in your state for a lot of people. But it's which is amazing is to represent a brand which has been established for a long time. Everyone knows Grand Marnier. Sometimes I think I can see the new generation of bartenders sometimes kind of have a bottle a bit on the side. And my role is to get people excited again sometimes, and also educate them about what to do with Grand Marnier, because there's a lot of versatility behind it. To me, what is very, very fascinating is the story behind it. And I don't want to make it like a whole presentation, but I think
no, we'll get past this quick. I mean, I'm not saying,
sure,
but I asked because I don't know. So I would love to know a little bit about this. And it's not marketing,
absolutely.
It explained to me because I'm a dummy, and that's kind of what we do here.
Sure. So to me, if you can, I always tell people, if you can describe Grand Marnier in one sentence, if you can tell your clients or your guests, this will be the best description. Grand Marnier is a cognac-based orange liqueur. If you can't say that, you already said 50% of my 1 hour training. I mean, there's a bit more to that. But this is really the most important message about Grand Marnier is we blend cognac with a bitter orange liqueur. And this is what makes Grand Marnier very premium. And we have tons of great orange liqueur on the market. It's very important to make a difference between the two types of orange family, what we call either the triple sec, which is a neutral-based spirits with a bitter orange liqueur, or the curaçaos. And the curaçao family is an age-based spirit blended with an orange liqueur. So Grand Marnier is part of the curaçao family. So it's a very important fact. Because we use cognac, that gives us a lot of versatility behind it. And we mentioned about, hey, like today we're going to test the whole portfolio. And it's great. We can drink it neat, but also we can drink it on the rocks. And we can talk also after about everything we can do with it. But one of the most popular cocktails in America, it's the margarita. And it's definitely one of the most popular for Grand Marnier. What I like also to highlight is there's so much more you can do with it. It pairs very well with coffee. You can add Grand Marnier with bourbon, like Grand Marnier Old Fashioned. It's delicious. You can pair it with any kind of spirit, tequila, mezcal, wine, in a sangria. So I love to see I'm more excited to see, hey, there's so much more you can do with Grand Marnier. And it's really, really exciting when you see people start to create cocktails from classics to new ones. I guess that would be the best introduction for Grand Marnier. One thing I really would love to highlight behind it's cognac, I think, is a very exciting spirit, eau de vie. And cognac sales even went up last year in America. And I can see more and more people drinking cognac. So this is for us an exciting news. I see more people drinking sidecar, for example. Sidecar can be this old classic cocktail, but not everyone's drinking too much. And this is, again, another way to enjoy Grand Marnier inside with cognac. But yeah, please, John, if you have any other questions, because
is there, I guess, like a story or a fable as far as when Grand Marnier was originally conceived? You know, how someone came up with the notion, put it together. You know, someone bored one night, had too many pours, and thought, I'm going to try to mix these profiles together, and now I'm just going to make it, into a brand or a product or something.
There is actually a beautiful story behind it. It's I would say it's a family story. So the distillery was first founded in 1827, and it was located first in the suburb of Paris. And back in the days, we were making fruit liqueurs, crème de cassis, crème de pêche, very popular. The distillery was called the L'Apostole distillery. The second generation of the L'Apostole family, Eugene, started to get really excited about cognac. So he was going all the way from the suburb of Paris to the southwest of France to collect some cognac for his own consumption. At the same time, he hired a young apprentice. His name was Louis-Alexandre Marnier, which of course the name sounds very familiar. And Louis-Alexandre Marnier really, really helped to, he also got excited about this cognac and started to play around and start to blend cognac with a bitter orange liqueur, which became Grand Marnier. So it's how everything started. But also, Louis-Alexandre Marnier fell in love not just with cognac, but with his boss daughter, Julie L'Apostole. It was the union, actually, of two families for the best. And one cool thing is if you look at a bottle of Grand Marnier, there's a wax stamp on it. And this is actually the name of the two families, L'Apostole, Marnier. So it's really one cool fact. I think every bottles, when you read bottles, you see a lot of signs and marks and little clues that they leave on the bottles. That tells a lot about the spirits. It's how Grand Marnier got created. However, 1880 is a very important date for us because 1880 was a birth date of Grand Marnier Cordon Rouge. So this is really where everything started. This is where this blend of cognac and bitter orange liqueur was born.
So what does Cordon Rouge translate to in English?
Very good question. It stands for red ribbon. So if you look at the bottle here, you will see this with the red ribbon that we have here across the bottle.
So Xavier, I hope I didn't butcher that too bad.
No,
but a question I had was, being that cognac was kind of, I guess, like the creme de la creme, or like the spirit for France, when someone came up with a blend that mingled in, this orange bitter liqueur, was it well received? Or folks like, hey, you're altering or deterring the core product of the country here. Like, what's going on?
It was very well received. The proof is we right away in 1890, Grand Marnier was already exported everywhere in the world. And we found actually, so I did some research with a cocktail historian from France named Fernando Castellon during the pandemic when everything was virtual. So we have actually more time to come out with different session. I mean, we had only virtual things to keep us connected. So we did some research and found one of the oldest cocktail with Grand Marnier, which was created in 1896. It was called a Grand Marnier Punch. It was created in Missouri at the Planters Hotel, and it was actually a blend of cognac, Jamaican rum, Grand Marnier lemon juice, and seasonal fruit. So we kind of recreated the recipe, and this is delicious. I like to see, coming back in the history, we found some really, really cool recipes and that tells us that Grand Marnier was already also exported right away.
I would say that's one of the things that I love together is Grand Marnier and rum and Jamaican rum. It is a marriage that just is, my God. There are times that, I mean, even and I think because of the premium nature of the spirits, the aging of those spirits, we have a product. I know we're talking Grand Marnier, but we have a product that's a 15-year Appleton that I have taken some of the 15-year Appleton, and Xavier will know in the bartender world the 50-50. So half of the Appleton 15 and half of the Centenaire, and that's it, with probably just a minute amount of dilution, and it is heaven. It is literally heaven. It's just heavenly.
I love to say that, Galen, because it really showcase how Grand Marnier pairs very well with so many spirits. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget that one of the most popular, I would say, tropical tiki drinks was a Mai Tai, and one of the Mai Tai recipe was with Grand Marnier, because it was used in the curacao in Mai Tai. So it really, really, it's really amazing to see when you dig into the history how you can find a lot of recipes with Grand Marnier, and I'm amazed to always discover.
Oh, absolutely. It is usually in every Manhattan. I'm known as a Manhattan drinker, and I try to not drink them as much as I can because I enjoy them too much. But there's always Grand Marnier in my Manhattan because of just what it does to the depth of the cocktail. It's really fantastic.
But one of the recipes of Manhattan was actually found in a J. Thomas cocktail book, which is the Bible of the bartenders.
Yeah.
So one question I have here. We know the history a little bit more of Grand Marnier now, but cognac on a whole, typically there's only a few distilleries that are actually producing it, and most of the cognac is sourced by the brands, to then go out. Is that the same for Grand Marnier? Because Campari is so big, are they pumping out cognac and then merging it together with the orange liqueur, or how does that work for y'all in the production side of it?
It's a very good question. We work with about 100 farmers, so we source or we buy already cognac. Some of the cognac we're finishing the aging in the chateau in the castle of Bourbon de Charente in Cognac. Now the whole distillery has been moved to in Cognac compared to for the little story when it started in the suburb of Paris. But cognac is meant to be blended first of all. We don't have any single vintage in cognac unless you're a very small producer, and you use just one single cask. But it's been always meant to be blended. And I think most of the cognac brands that we see, and I'm pretty sure all the cognac brands we have right now in America or exported everywhere, buy cognac from those farmers. The farmers don't even hide it. They tell us, we sell cognac for this brand, this brand, this brand, this brand. After, it's the most important thing, it's the blending process, which really makes a difference. And to do that, you need a master blender. And in Cognac, I believe at this time we have about 33 master blenders. And we are lucky that one of them is the master blender from Grand Marnier. And his name is Patrick Ragueneau. And he's been a master blender since probably 16 years already. He's a grand monsieur, as we say in French, a big gentleman, because this is the fourth generation from his family. So I wonder if he has probably Cognac running into his vein instead of but it's an art to blend Cognac, because they do a lot of the blending with the nose. So you can understand the different terroirs, different eras that we have in this tiny region. Also, I want to highlight that this region became an AOC, so it's a controlled area, so it's a limited area now since 1936, and Cognac sales are still going up. So think about like champagne. So we have 98% of the Cognac sales being exported and for the rest of the world. And we need to plant more vines. We need to plant the next 7 years, because it takes time to grow the vines, because there's more and more demand. So it's interesting to see, wow, how are we going to do to, I mean, it's a great news. People drink more Cognac. It makes me more happy Frenchman.
Yeah, I was going to ask if, Grand Marnier targeted specific terroir areas, or if it was more or less like we can take anything, and that's what makes us unique, is we can blend it regardless of what it is, as long as it's a, I guess, good product, so to speak.
Can you say that word one more time before he goes ahead and answers the question?
Messed up terroir.
Terroirs. No, you said terroirs, and we can say, what would be the right term? But terroirs, we love to treat Cognac like wine. So anyway, Cognac is made from grapes. It's distilled from grapes. We harvest it once a year, so this is like wine. So it's very important that this region, in the different region in Cognac, and Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne will be to age older Cognac. After we have Bonbois, Frambois, and Borderies. So what I mean to say, it's depending on the Grand Marnier we have. For example, the Grand Marnier Cordon Rouge, we're going to work with 5 of the terroirs. But if we're going to go with a Centenaire, which is an older Cognac, we'll be using only the Cognac from Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne. I think we can work with different terroirs. Each terroir has different soil. That's going to bring different notes into the process, into our Cognac blending. It's like making a cocktail. You need to find all the ingredients and balance it properly. So you use the terroir the same way, like you're using different ingredients.
I know Zeke has a question, and hold that thought. Write that question down, Zeke, because I just want to mention we're a few minutes in here, and we have not drank anything yet. So I know Zeke is itching to start talking about this stuff. Let's go through the first one, the Cordon Rouge. Zeke, we know what it is. It's light. It's airy. It's got a lot of orange to it.
Wonderful.
It is wonderful. It goes down super, super easy. It is 40% ABV, so it's 80 proof. We also know it is the blend of the Cognac with the orange liqueur. It is really, really good. What do you have to say about Cordon Rouge, Xavier?
I think but Cordon Rouge is, of course, the original bottle from Grand Marnier. I like to highlight that all our Grand Marnier are the same proof, 80 proof. They are all blend of Cognac, but we have the same orange liqueur between the Cordon Rouge, the Cuvée Louise Alexandre, and the Centenaire. However, what makes a difference can be the Cognac ratio versus orange liqueur in the bottle, and also using older Cognac. So, for example, the Grand Marnier Cordon Rouge, 51% of the bottle is a blend of young Cognac up to 2 years old. So we almost like to compare it almost like a VS Cognac, but we have a blend from younger Cognac up to 2 years old. And if you're ready for that, should we test it together? I'm sure you already started.
We absolutely already have started. This makes me think of something, I know I told Zeke to not ask his question, but this just popped in my head. So it is the merger of two families together. But how did Marnier get on the bottle where, how do you say it? What's the other family?
L'Apostole.
So how did the L'Apostole family not get on the bottle, except for like the cap?
I think it's a good question. I think it's definitely Louise Alexandre was, I think it was the creation of Louise Alexandre. Actually, the bottle was first called, the original bottle was called Curaçao de Marnier. And the bottle was actually rectangular. It looked like an old bottle of Genever. They were actually doing okay. So they have to redesign the bottle and change the name. So I think a lot of this is because it was a creation of Louis Alexandre Marnier. And also being part of a family, I think the product became bigger than what they thought and exploded in so many ways with the sales everywhere in the world. I think there's one important gentleman we should bring inside the story. It's César Ritz. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the Ritz Hotel. César Ritz is a founder of the Ritz Hotel in Paris. He used to work before the Savoy Hotel in London. And César Ritz helps to redesign the bottle and change the name. So we owe him a big thanks, because think about in terms of marketing in 1880. So we were using the word petite, which means small in French, for a lot of things. Petit Parisien was the local newspaper in Paris. Petit Trianon was a small chateau of Marie Antoinette behind the Versailles Castle. Petit Ami, boyfriend, girlfriend. So instead of petit, we went for the opposite to elevate the brand. We went for a sense of grand. And I think it's marketing-wise, it was really, really brilliant to substitute Curaçao de Marnier by Grand to elevate the brand. So I think it's just the name already has changed a lot. And there's also one more cool fact I want to bring here. Do you guys know the meaning behind the shape of the bottle of Grand Marnier, by the way?
We don't.
Galen probably knows. But it's actually, every time I go around the country and train everyone on Grand Marnier, it's actually, I'm amazed that no one really knows the meaning behind it. It's actually the shape of the pot still in Cognac. So that would be the top of the pot still, and this would be the swan neck. So I think it's amazing that we preserve this shape and this DNA. And in 2022, you can recognize this bottle distinctively beyond in every back bars. And I think there's amazing heritage and story here.
I feel like Marnier was the Britney Spears and L'Apostole was the Jamie Lynn Spears. And the families together, but like, you know, one was the superstar, the other one's kind of there. They comment on their sister every once in a while, but they're never going to get the start-em. They're never going to be on the bottle.
I think it was just size and pronunciation.
Just saying.
I think it was just size and pronunciation. I mean, but that was my first thought when you asked the question. I'm like, I think even way back in the day, this was just marketing and what looks better, sounds better, and what can people go up to a bar, and even my ignorant self from Podunk, Georgia, can say Grand Marnier, but I sure shit couldn't say that.
You just didn't say it right.
I like actually the comparison with Britney Spears. The first time I heard it, but I think there is definitely. I think it's a family story, and if you look at a lot of different cognac brands outside of actually one we just acquired not too long ago called Bisquit Cognac, which is part of the Campari group. Bisquit Cognac was created about the same date as Grand Marnier, and same thing. It was the union of two families again. So it's a lot of back in the days you were doing business with a son-in-law and with the father-in-law, whatever. It was a family business, and so it's why we see a lot of families being together. After who were the names, it's always a question mark. But I guess the one who has the smartest maybe about it, or I don't know, the one who owns the name. But it's really interesting. But yeah,
let's go back to this first one again. Zeke, you want to say, what do you get when you drink this?
Deliciousness.
All right.
I mean,
what about the nose? I mean, what did you? Well, just from the nose perspective of it, right?
I mean, I've always thought it was just super sweet. Obviously, very floral, aromatic. It's funny to hear the orange liqueur described as being a bitter component, because it does come across that way, I guess, if you like try to singular it out in the product. But the synergy of it, I think the bitterness, it's just that perfect balance to where you wouldn't describe it as bitter unless somebody said, well, if you dissect it, like, what's the cognac bringing? What's the orange bringing? And what's the relationship between the two? But otherwise, I would never think of this as being a bitter product at all. I mean, I've always just thought of it as super sweet, rich.
But I love that word that you used, rich, because, I think we all have different experiences. And I remember this was for us at a different point in my life. This is what we would greet each other with. It was, oh yeah, I had a shot of Grand Marnier, and that's how we began the night. And it was elevated, and it was grand, it was wonderful.
Listen,
And
I don't want to get you off brand, but I thought it was chartreuse.
No, I'm old, and I've had a lot of different movements in my life.
If you were really wondering what Zeke has in that cup.
One French liqueur at a time. One French liqueur at a time.
What I really love with Grand Marnier, I think it's important to understand a lot of the aromas you have already just in the nose when you smell it. And to me, there's a beautiful combination of candied orange that I can smell, but also a lot of the vanilla aromas from the cognac. Don't forget that the cognac is aged in a French oak. And I always highlight the French oak because this is what brings the spices, the notes of vanilla that we taste in Grand Marnier, and we owe it to the cognac. And it's really, really, I think it's such a beautiful combination. So just the nose on its own is very, very, just so pleasant. Once you taste it, we are definitely something more rich, but it's funny because I always ask everyone when I do a tasting, what do you guys think? And there's always different answer. And someone told me one day, it tastes like butterscotch. And I think, yeah, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I just want to do, I mean, I know the Century one, I don't even have the word in front of me, so I'm not even going to try to say it, but I think that one's kind of a different animal all in and of itself, because that is more of a specialty. It breaks the 3-figure zone of where the bottle is priced, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is made to be a limited time offering that is special. Louise Alexandra is more of an $80 bottle, where regular Grandma, I think, is more of a $30 bottle. But comparing the two, and that's kind of what I had to do, because when you go to the Cordon Rouge, you're like, what's it taste like? Oh, it tastes like Grand Marnier. Like that. What's your tasting note on it? It's like, well, if you know, like you drink Grand Marnier, you know, and yes, I can pick it apart, but it's special. It's got its own unique taste. The funny thing, and I go back to something you said, Xavier, where the ratio of the orange liqueur to the cognac is going to be different for every offering, and I definitely can tell that. You know, so when I look at tasting notes and to overgeneralize things, the Grand Marnier, I get more cognac. Louise Alexandra, I get more of the orange liqueur. Like, I feel like the ratio of the blend of that one got amped up on the orange. I'm able to get, like you said, some of the vanillins and the butterscotch and some of that other stuff on the Cordon Rouge, but Louis Alexandra is much more just bold orange right in my nose, and that kind of overtakes a little bit of the sip as well when I go to the palate.
Well, and sorry, I was going to jump in because I know at some point a few minutes back you were explaining the composition of this first one, and I think you got cut off right after the 51%, 2-year-ish cognac. So I was going to let you complete that just so anyone that wondered would know.
Sure. So I think what's very important to, and I always like to show the bottle even only for us looking at it right now, but I think it's very important to have this blend of young cognac. And we spoke a lot about cognac. We barely actually spoke about the orange liqueur. But one thing which is very important to understand is we source oranges from the Caribbean islands. And the type of orange we use is called the Bigaradia orange. So it's a very bitter orange liqueur, but it's bitter because we handpick the orange while it's still green. And we're going to peel the orange and leave the peels on the ground floor to dry with the Caribbean sun. Then after, we ship the peels to the distillery in Cognac to macerate them into a neutral-based spirit and go through a column still distillation. And that's the really simple explanation. There's more to that, but this is really the simple process, which is amazing. We've been using the same process since day one. We haven't changed anything. And I love to hear the story about these dried peels, because imagine back in the days where we're going all the way in the Caribbean islands from France. I don't know how many weeks with a sailboat it took to go there and come back. There was no way you could bring some fresh oranges. So this technique of drying fruits has been amazing, because that's the way we were, actually Chinese people were already using these techniques many years before us. we were like already using drying fruits, and so they were already super smart about exportation and getting all the. However, the dry fruit is a way to ship anything without losing any of the essence, and the maceration is a way to extract this orange essence from the dry peels. And nothing has changed. We just probably have better transportation nowadays. I hope so.
A little bit faster, at least, right?
Yes.
Well, maybe not.
With a supply chain issue, maybe we're still back to the sales boat.
So is this one, I guess, 51% cognac and then 49 orange liqueur, or is there like
correct
a different layer of more aged cognac in there?
This is exactly what it is. A blend of cognac up to 2 years old. And we have this blend of 51% cognac. So I would say half and half. And it's really what gives already the versatility, because I like to say some orange liquor, like a triple sec, you will not be able to enjoy them neat. So it really just showcases that using cognac, it really gives this versatility behind Grand Marnier. And we know people have been already drinking cognac for so many years neat, from behind the kitchen when the chef were using it, but also to if you go to certain cities, like just people still love drinking Grand Marnier neat. Like in DC, Washington DC, people drink Grand Marnier everywhere. This is I like to see that it's still always a nice way to drink it after a meal, before a meal on ice. And like I said, in many ways to enjoy it in the cocktails. I always like to highlight the story of a margarita. I think, do you know that 1 consumer out of 4 in America is drinking a margarita at home or in a restaurant or in a bar? This is the most popular enjoy cocktails in the United States. And for us, having Grand Marnier part of the margarita, it's one of the best sellers, and still is. So we always like to highlight this. And I think it's due to the story of the Cadillac margarita, which was created in the 1980s. And by adding a float of Grand Marnier to elevate your margarita and make it more premium. And I think it's awesome that now Grand Marnier is placed into, hey, you want to make your margarita premium, just Grand Marnier, and it works very well. Again, we still have our place here, and I always like to highlight this. And very proud to say it's great to use Grand Marnier in the margarita.
That was definitely, my first exposure easily. I mean, my dad would not make a margarita without Grand Marnier. Like, we didn't have it. He wasn't firing up the blender. Like, somebody's got to go to the store. Nothing's getting made here until we have this component. I'm going to make them right, and that's it, damn it. Like, somebody go find me a bottle.
I mean, and there's nothing like, and let's keep it real, 155. There is nothing like a Grand Marnier margarita. I'm going to tell you right now. I have seen people lose their minds because it is there's just something about that depth that it puts. It enhances every other flavor, but always kind of keeps its own. It just says, everybody comes to the party and let's have fun. It just does a wonderful thing with it. It's great. I mean, it is truly an amazing additive to that because I don't drink a lot of margaritas as much as I used to. I drink a lot of mezcal margaritas if I do, but even then I'll put a float of Grand Marnier on top. It's just, I put it on everything.
I think it's the viscosity from the cognac, my guess. But it's like just a flowing agent where it's, a little more just tactile on the tongue. You feel it more. It's more sensory. I think you get the perception that you're absorbing more flavors because of, the way the sugars give it kind of like the bulking effect, where when you're drinking it, it's not as thin. It's a more viscous product. So you're savoring it and you're enjoying it more almost.
And you think about a margarita as just a sour, margarita means daisy. So it was brought from, okay, just turn that little bottle. Turn the bottle up, Zeke. I love saying it. But, when we think about the origins of a margarita really as a sour, it's almost like a small counterbalance. So when you have that Grand Marnier that just sits on top and floats and just moves around and just has this element of just seduction, I think it's pretty spectacular.
And if I may add to that, I think actually adding a float of Grand Marnier when I'm going to the summertime with beautiful days and sometimes very warm days, And we all know the frozen cocktails are the highlight of the summer. And there's nothing better than just making a frozen drink and like a pina colada or anything with rum and have a float of Grand Marnier on the top. It just goes well, so very well together. And it brings a nice little kick to the drinks. So I like to say the idea of having a float of Grand Marnier works in a lot of cocktails.
No, I agree. I completely agree. It's funny, even drinking Cordon Rouge right now, and just neat, it just amazes me. I'm just simply amazed at the ease of it, at just the elegance of it, and how it just really has a certain sort of movement that you would not think that, I've got to put it in something. No, it's completely enjoyable, neat. Now, Xavier knows that we're going to the other marks when we'll continue on, but it just always amazes me, even when and he teaches many more classes on these than I do, but even when I tell people to go through the lineup and go back to Cordon Rouge, they have an appreciation of, like, I still see the same basic DNA that flows through the others and comes when you come back to this one. You see this growing up of this spirit. Absolutely.
Actually, I'm like, should we test the Cuvée Louis Alexandre? I'm sure how everyone's feeling right now.
I would love to go to Louis Alexandre.
Yeah, unless you're already drinking the Cuvée Louis Alexandre.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I was going to throw in the jab, like I mentioned this show to a buddy of mine from school. Like his wedding, they had two spirits. I think it might have been Crown, but the other one was Grandma, and that's what everybody just flocked to. And I'm like, man, how much do you think we've consumed? He's like, we have shot more of this than anything else since we've known each other in 2003. And I was like, all right, then we've got some history.
Yeah, no, it's a thing, but I'm not to jump in, but I'll let then. I have my
talk about it. Let's talk about this Louis.
Talk about Louis Alexandre. Yeah.
So is this the blue label though? Sorry.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's the cuvee one, right?
Yes. Well, they're all cuvées, but this one is specific. And he'll tell you about it. But that's the one on your little bottle that has LAX on.
You're a cuvee.
I didn't associate in my mind that Louis Alexandre was the blue label cuvee. Gotcha. I'm a little slow sometimes. We all know that.
Well, you were drinking that night at the event, and when we were drinking this. All right, Louis Alexandre.
Let's go into it.
I like to say that Louis Alexandre is one of the latest addition of the portfolio of Grand Marnier. It's named after Louis Alexandre Marnier, and it was released actually in spring 2019. It's really great cuvées, which is kind of bridging the gap of before we used to go from the Cordon Rouge accessible to the Cuvée du Centenaire, much more premium. So we kind of bridge that gap by bringing a really great cuvées. So what we have inside is actually 82% of the bottle is a blend of cognac, and we put a blend of cognac, which is a VSOP cognac. So to be a VSOP cognac, you need to have a blend for at least 4 years old cognac. We put a blend from 4 to 6 years old cognac. And I like to say we did something first of all, it's been very well received by the industry. And it's still fairly new. I think a lot of people haven't tested yet the Cuvée Louis Alexandre. And I encourage anyone who's listening to us to go, if you're a big fan of Grand Marnier, go get a bottle. It's incredibly well done. And we're going to test it together. And I want to hear your feedback, guys. But I think once we get the aromas in the nose, and as funny, you mentioned about it was, for you, the orange was coming more through. But I think it's on the nose, you were actually totally right. It's a bit more bright. It's a bit more zesty. And there's a more like almost some essence of bergamot in the nose. It's actually very surprising because you think, it's more cognac forward. But once you test it, it's actually the opposite. It's more deep. It's more rich. It's also, for me, very, very, very smooth. And you can test also the vanilla, the French oak, and a very long finish. And to me, this is a step above. It's a nice contrast with the Cordon Rouge. But please, what are your feedbacks? What do you guys think about the Cuvée Louis Alexandre?
What I find interesting about this and what you just said, is that the nose is going to be different from the palate. You did say earlier that all Grand Marnier is blended with the nose, not with the taste going into the blending, right?
Yes, when the cognac is blended with the nose. the cognac and the bitter orange liqueur is just purely a ratio which gonna be a blend together in a giant oak vat up to 6 months.
Do they try it in different forms first before they decide? Like, I mean, obviously you have to scale it and repeat it, and especially with this kind of stuff, you might just say, okay, or is it different for each blend, for each vintage that comes out, the release that you have each year?
The ratio cognac and orange liqueur will be always the same, no matter what is the cuvée. The cognac blend, this is something we don't know, because you have a blend between a bottle of Grand Marnier, you have a blend between 50 to 100 cognacs. So it's hard to say how many percentage varies, and only the chef behind the kitchen will be able to tell us, which is Patrick Agonneau, our master blender.
And you said this one was an 82%.
82%, actually. 82% right. Cognac.
Gotcha. And I definitely remember the first time we had this. John, what was it, like 3 years ago, 4? I know Galen mentioned, one of his counterparts, Andy, and he brought to a whiskey event we were at nonetheless. And I was like, hey, I know you guys like this stuff. It's new we're coming out with. You want to try it? And John and I both, first time we had it, I was like, oh, like this is a clear step above. And without a ton of specific notes, even tasting it now, it's just very simply much more body, much more savory, much more deep. I mean, that one, yes, I've put it in a cocktail before if I was kind of in a pinch, didn't have the Cordon Rouge, but that one to me, like, I'm just going to enjoy it on its own. It doesn't need to be tampered or bothered with. Like this is just a nice, easy 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to enjoy myself right now. Put my feet up.
It's complete, man. It's just, that's one thing about the Louis Alexandre, I think, is complete. We have done some things locally to try to help people get exposed to this. So they are, you can find some really great pricing on this in some stores. And to throw that out to everybody that's listening. So, I know there are a lot of stores that are out there, but if you can find one that has it, it's at a really competitive price point, and try it out, because I dare say you will try this and love it, but it is just complete in all of itself. As Zeke, I think you hit it on the head. It's just, that's it. You can just have it just like that, neat. Sometimes I will put this in the fridge because I like a little bit of chill on some of my things. I love what happens when something is just has a little chill on it, not diluted, but chilled, and how it hits the tongue. And as soon as it hits my mouth, everything starts to open up. But all those sort of things that just really sort of help those spirited flavors just unfurl and release themselves.
You're saying it tastes so good once it hits your lips.
Palate, bud, palate.
I mean, that's an old school quote. There's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't that's old school. You're Galen the tank.
I think it's also, there's many ways to enjoy the Cuvée Louis Alexandre. Neat as it is, it's delicious. One of my favorite way to drink it is with a big piece of ice. For me, it's like a cocktail with one ingredient, because there's so much going on inside the bottle. But also with the dilution of the ice, we have a little bit more of a sweetness coming more in behind, and it opens up a lot of the flavors. So again, from the cognac, the notes of vanilla, the spices, it starts to be almost slightly buttery with a little bit more dilution and very cold. So it's just really good on its own. I've seen bartenders using Cuvée Louis Alexandre in cocktails, more like a high-end cocktails, because it's a different price point. Mm-hmm. But also think about it goes very well with cognac classic cocktails. Think about like a Vieux Carré. Vieux Carré, it's 1 ounce cognac, 1 ounce rye, sweet vermouth, Benedictine bitters. Substitute the cognac with a Cuvée Louis Alexandre and remove the Benedictine and just put a bar spoon of Averna, and you have amazing new version of the Vieux Carré, it goes so well, very well. It goes so well together. So I'm really excited to see what bartenders are doing now with the Cuvée Louis Alexandre, because it's still fairly new to the market.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of talent coming out with some great combination, and I'm just really, really excited to see what people are doing with it.
They're making $50 Manhattans with it. But one thing I wanted to throw in, I don't know if anyone else got this, but once it hit the back palate, it was right before it got to the finish, but like right kind of at the top of the palate, right to the beginning of the throat, I got a black licorice bomb. And it was crazy because I'm like, man, am I having with all the orange that's in here? And yeah, I know. I mean, I've gotten black licorice off whiskeys, but I'm like, I am getting a ton of black licorice that just shoots up. It's almost like a bomb. You know, once it goes down, it gets your throat, it comes back up. Like the finish goes both down and up at the same time. It's kind of crazy.
I got to try it again.
I mean, I think to me, the biggest sensory difference is it just seems to have much more, I guess, embodiment, or it's developed from the French oak versus picking up sugars. Like the Cordon Rouge, you know, you can feel and sense it's more a little sugary, but this just seems to be much more Cognac, French oak driven. And then, like you said, it's kind of like a cocktail in one, to where the orange liqueur is there just enough to deviate it and make it a completely unique, you know, product and a variant, you know, from the mainstream, I guess you could say.
And you said it's right. It's exactly what was the goal. It's really having the VSOP cognac inside, being the more forward, and it's changed a lot about and actually I think it's really cool testing side by side, because it's where you really see the difference between the Cordon Rouge is more bright, more candied orange, but also with some note of toffee and butterscotch. But it again really complex on its own, but almost with the Cuvée de Louis Alexandre, we come with something more simple, more straightforward. It's just cognac, smooth, French oak, note of vanilla, and the orange liqueur just really combine very well together, but not as much. It's not as strong as it is in a Cordon Rouge. However, would you be interested to try the Centenaire?
Would I?
I am interested if Galen did get the black licorice. Would you taste it again?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not, but I would probably say one of the things I found really interesting that Xavier mentioned with the Louis Alexandre is the bergamot. That's an interesting note that when he said that, I did pick that up just because I love bergamot. I think it's an amazing aromatic. It's just one of my faves. So that was a wonderful said. So to you, sir, thank you.
Welcome. If you guys are ready, one thing I like to highlight with the Grand Marnier Cuvée du Centenaire. Centenaire means centenary. It was actually released in 1927 to celebrate the 100 years anniversary of a distillery, which was first founded in 1827. They really push older cognac inside, where actually 82% of a bottle of a Cuvée du Centenaire is actually an XO cognac. XO cognac stands for extra old, which is a blend of at least 10 years old cognac.
Yes.
In this bottle, we actually put a blend from 10 to 25 years old cognac.
Yes.
So I like to say that, hey, we have actually a lot of things going on inside. And this is, to me, gentlemen, we're drinking history. I think there is something very special, because since 1927, we kept the same formula. And of course, the same with the Cordon Rouge. But it's amazing. In 2022, we're still drinking this rare blend of cognac and orange liqueur. And to me, this is really what makes Grand Marnier very unique, because we are the only one to master this blending of all cognac and orange liqueur. No one has really tried to compete with that. So this is really what is Grand Marnier really good at. And if you're ready, I'm going to invite you to unless, John, if you have any questions, or Zeke. Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
I don't have many questions. I do find it very interesting, though, that, you know, it's exactly what you said. Nobody is challenging it. You think at least, you know, with other brands and somebody does something, there's an imitation that's out there with everything, with every, you know, especially a whiskey. You know, one brand puts out a certain type of finish, and there's 8 other brands that all of a sudden have that type of finish that comes out pretty soon. Is it at the point now, and I'm asking, this is almost a rhetorical question, is it at the point now where people are like, grandma is so established and it is what it is? Like, I ain't even messing with that because I'm not going to knock down the champ. Like, and I'm not even going to take enough market share at this point to make it worth my while, because they have the relationship with the farmers. I mean, that's, you know, like, you have to get enough cognac to start this anyway. And then you have to have the right orange liqueur. Like, it might sound really simple. All you're doing is is blending two things. And then when you break down, like this is where my project management hat comes on. You break down what it's going to take to actually get you from point A to point B, and you put it on paper. You're like, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to go make some whiskey. Like it's a lot easier.
Well, that's kind of where I wondered is maybe not so much the cognac, but you're talking about owning this specific or having farms with this specific, orange varietal. Does Grand Marnier essentially have a monopoly on these orange farms, and basically they get the whole cream of the crop of where these grow?
I don't think we have a monopoly. I think we have tons of orange liquor on the market, and I don't know where everyone is sourcing their oranges. Maybe not everyone is sourcing their oranges from the Caribbean islands. But the type of oranges, again, that we use is really proper to the Curacao style. So we use the Bigarada orange. Bigarada is a very, I would say, it's more like aromatic and bitter orange. So we for sure we have enough for Grand Marnier. I hope there's enough for the others. But it's I don't think we have a monopoly. I think it's definitely a big production for sure, because Grand Marnier is been established for so many years, and we are distributed globally. So it's definitely on top of that. One thing I'd like to highlight, not to put always Grand Marnier on the stage, but also it's part of our conversation tonight. But just in America, during the year of 2021, the Grand Marnier sales went up 16%. So the great news is actually people have been drinking more Grand Marnier than ever. So it's still very, very, very popular. I think it's, again, on my side, is, hey, teach the new generation of bartenders, maybe drink less of the Grand Marnier and maybe more some of the cool spirit, maybe. And I think Grand Marnier is still cool, but hey, what can you do with it? Beside the margarita, have you tried to use it with bourbon? Have you tried to use it in the stir drinks? Have you tried to use it with dry sherries? It's amazing orange liquor to use because of this cognac base. But we've been talking, of course, many times tonight.
All right, should we taste this one though? The last one, Centenaire.
So one thing I like to highlight is the color of the Centenaire. We can see it's more like amber, copper tint, definitely because of the older cognac. The nose, to me, is incredibly, it's a perfume. Perfume is not the right word, but the nose is really complex. I could smell the Centenaire for all day long because it's very musky. To me, it feels like if you enter into an antique shop, a vintage store, and you can smell the old wood, you can smell the old leather. And to me, there's this in the nose, which is really, really particular of the Centenaire. And it's really so unique on its own.
Centenaire almost sounds like an airline, though. I just want to mention that. It's like, how did you get back to New York, Xavier? Oh, I took Centenaire.
Oh, yes. I fly every night with Centenaire.
I need that kind of plan. We need to talk to somebody about this.
I don't know. Whoever can get that done with, I'm right there with you.
Sign us both up. Can we get a BOGO deal?
I know. Look.
There's companion pass with Centenaire.
No, I need the extra room in the back. I need first class constantly.
But
I will say this, though. To the question that you asked earlier, I think that it is about, and the word I think of with Grand Marnier is iconic. It has established itself as what it is and as the leader and its uniqueness. I don't think that anyone has ever dared to try to, in a sense, come for it, because the simplicity of the process, the fact that the process has always been the same and remain unchanged, and that is a tried and true process, speaks volumes about its production, the care, the commitment to the quality. And keep in mind, I think a lot of the things that when we see these other SKUs, these other offerings coming from Grand Marnier, for a long time, I've been in the bar business for a very long time. The only things that we were getting really was the Cordon Rouge. And so then slowly but surely, we started to see more things coming into the fold as far as different offerings. But it is just such a heralded liqueur. And I think Xavier is completely right. Like, sometimes what is old is new again. So a lot of the things I think we're starting to see, particularly the renaissance of Chartreuse, that's the renaissance of some old dusty spirits that you don't see anymore coming back into play, and younger bartenders are remembering this is what it means to have something of this power and this legacy, putting into a cocktail, and it just shines incredibly through. There was something that the old masters did that the new kids are looking at, right? They all studied Rembrandt, they all studied Matisse, they all studied these old masters to see exactly how they need to move forward. And I think remembering this in the cocktail era is incredibly important, particularly with a brand like Grand Marnier.
With great power comes great responsibility. I want to talk about this Centenaire a little bit more. What I will mention with this Centenaire, the funny thing is the oranges smell different with the Centenaire. It almost tastes like the oranges are cooked a little bit longer.
And not to cut you off, but I would probably forget this.
Yeah.
In fact, you teed it up. I kind of forgot it already. I'm assuming cognacs are aged and blended in their own independent process, and then the orange is mingled in, or does the orange come in during the aging process?
It's a very good question. The cognac is blended on its own. And so the last step is what we call the mariage. So we're going to marry the orange liquor and the cognac in a giant oak vat up to 6 months. So the cognac is definitely, the blending of the cognac is done on its own. But I like what you say, John, is true. A lot of people told me the Centenaire we have a little bit of a taste of a burnt orange, a little bit. And it's definitely have the orange is more like subtle, it's more like not as bright of a Cordon Rouge. To me, what's really interesting is once you taste the Centenaire, there's an incredible complexity with so many layers. We have a little bit of stone fruit, we have some apricots, we have some spices. It's an explosion in the mouth, in a beautiful explosion. I don't want to put it in an aggressive way, but with almost like this anise taste that comes to the tip of your tongue. And this is really, really just incredibly just well done to me. That's a perfect after dinner liquor. Or like, I like to say also, it's a nice approach for people who don't drink cognac. And hey, maybe why don't you start, if you have a Centenaire available and you have this amazing meal in a restaurant, why don't you just end up properly with a glass of a Grand Marnier Centenaire? And it's just, after having a beautiful meal, I think it's a nice way to end your evening. On my sense,
and I like the way that the profile from this still varies from the Louis Alexander. I mean, you're definitely getting three completely different taste and savory sensations. Very simply, like note wise for this, I thought immediately it was super sweet on the front, which I mean I love. Like that's my jam. I want sweets all day, every day. But it was also very, very deep, even on the front. And then towards the middle, I thought it got really savory from, some evaporation, which I would assume, again, the 82% cognac plus being a much higher aged product. And then the back really showcased aged product or aged cognac in French oak and just a savory sensory spice that gives you a little kick, a little bite. It seemed more mature, like, all right, the Louis Alexander, it was bold and savory all the way through. But this had that, super sweet up front, but then enough kick at the back to be like, this is a big boy product. I accomplished something here.
It is. And it's surprisingly, you will think it'll be more smooth in the one way compared to the Cuvée Louis Alexandre. I think it's just a complexity of everything we have inside the Centenaire. Again, after we just tested on its own, I encourage you to test it after having a meal. And you have actually a different Centenaire. I think it's interesting once you have many flavors before that you have tasted before in your mouth. From going from, I don't know, whatever main course and beautiful desserts you can have at the end. And I like to say also, hey, Grand Marnier to pair with dessert is also amazing, It pairs very well with coffee, vanilla, chocolates. So just maybe a nice way to pair also with your dessert as well.
I taste, for the Centenaire, I would love it with a creme brulee. Yeah. Whatever reason for me, but the Louis Alexandre, it would be something that's chocolate, something that's very definitely chocolate. I think there's a certain spice that would be enhanced with the Louis Alexandre for sure. But yeah, but for me, I've always thought of Centenaire as something I would love with the traditional, just vanilla creme brulee, which I think would be fantastic.
I got the black licorice again.
Yes,
I did, but it was a different type, right? And I think I use the analogy of racehorses all the time. And
I get no licorice. I'm
with Galen.
I get no licorice, John. I think this is a carryover.
It's not. It's not a carryover because it tastes
the oils.
I mean, my palate is my palate.
Your jorts are your jorts.
They are. You guys could hate on me all you want, but I definitely get it. I get other stuff in there as well, but I think it's just the way that the orange, as you put in a little bit older cognac and a little bit more mature cognac, I think the younger cognac kind of, it's like the same thing I would say in a whiskey where a younger whiskey has a different taste. It's a little more lemon lime for me is the younger note that I get in a whiskey. I think the older that grandma ages and the more complexity that you're then putting in there, for me, it just comes through as a black licorice. And maybe that is because I'm a fat kid and that's like I equate it to things like candy and licorice and stuff like that. But I definitely get something on here. I loved it though. I'm just curious on this. What is the MSRP? Because I see this online anywhere from 113 to 179. What is this typically supposed to go for?
I think it's going to depend on where you are.
Give me a range, like what, like a $20 range.
I'll give you a median. You should see this probably at about 159.
Okay, that median's great. We just want to
send me the link for that 113 site.
I will. I'm on it.
All of these have been fun, and definitely the progression did become much more in depth, much more savory. I think to kind of circle back before we wrap everything up and back to the Cordon Rouge, because that being, I guess, probably the most used product. And you talked about mezcal, which I love. 5 days a week, I'm there with you. What kind of curveball cocktail would you throw out there that most people wouldn't think the Cordon Rouge just really embellishes or takes it to a different level that's not on the mainstream? Because I think the mezcal is getting there. It's growing, man. That SKU's getting bigger.
I think it's the easiest pairing you can have. And again, I think there's so many recipes I want to give you right now in the top of my mind. but I think you can go wrong with a sidecar. I always like to call the sidecar the French margarita. It's definitely what it is. You substitute the agave with the cognac, and instead of the lime, you use the lemon. To me, it's just Grand Marnier already have cognac inside, so you can think about a better pairing to use a cognac base to pair with Grand Marnier. I will go for a sidecar. That's my go-to. You can go wrong. Anyone can make a sidecar. It does not require 10 ingredients. And it's hard to get disappointed from that.
Zeke, do you want me to make sure you have his email after this so you can keep talking to him?
I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt. I need to know what kind of mezcals aren't on my radar that he's already found, because that's been my jam for more than a minute now.
We know this, but for now, we are very, very happy that he talked to us about Grand Marnier. I think I can't wait to hear some more cocktails. I can't wait to get together with you in person when Galen brings you through Nashville to have a drink, laugh, and catch up, and try to get Galen and Zeke to taste the black licorice. We'll get them there someday.
Did he confirm he got it too?
I don't think he did.
He did. He said yes. When I said it.
I think John's projecting right now.
I think he just kind of nodded like, I don't know what that guy's got going on, but I'm just going to let him roll with it.
Being a polite guest. He's a gracious guest.
Yeah, no, honestly, thank you so much, Xavier. This has been a blast. And Galen, we love you.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for, letting us. I know we talk about this for a minute, but I thank you, Xavier, for making the time. And thanks, John and Zeke, for being available. And I think this is great. This has been fantastic.
Thank you very much, Zeke and John and Galen, of course, for having me on your podcast. I think it's amazing that I hope people get excited to hear always about Grand Marnier. I think there's a lot to talk about behind this beautiful liqueur. And if anyone has any questions, I hope we can share some of the email or Instagram, because I'm always available. It's really my pleasure is to talk about Grand Marnier, even almost 24 hours and 7 days on 7 asleep sometimes. but it's a fascinating liquor, and there's so much to say behind it. So Thank you very much again for allowing me to be here and talk about Grand Marnier, and I hope you enjoy also testing it together as well.
We really appreciate it. Go ahead and find Grand Marnier. Find Xavier on the interwebs. I think he said he's on Instagram. Galen's on Instagram. You could go ahead and find him as well. Find Campari, find Grand Marnier, all that good stuff. Find us on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads, Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Please leave us an open and honest review, just like we leave open and honest reviews about the whiskey we drink and sometimes the Grand Marnier we drink. Zeke, where else can the folks find us?
Good old Nashville, Tennessee.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.